Hey guys, it's Drakodan here. Just thought I'd record a quick video on Superbouncing in Sonic Adventure 2, show exactly how it's performed, what goes into it, why it works the way it does, and the different kind of results that you'll get when Superbouncing. So, if you've never done a Superbounce before, it is simply the act of augmenting the amount of height that you get from Sonic's bounce. You can see, got my input display, you bounce just by using X, and a Superbounce is simply running into a wall or moving into a wall while you are in this bounce form. You can see that if I run towards this wall and bounce into it, you can see that I got a little bit of a height boost there. That is a super bounce in and of itself, just a very not pronounced one. And this is the cardinal rule with when you're trying to trigger a super bounce. Like when you see a lot of runners doing super bounces in this game, they get a lot of height, but then when new runners try it themselves, they end up doing something like this, like not getting any height at all. This is what a lot of new runner super bounce attempts look like. And this is happening when you are bouncing after hitting the wall. I did mention that when you're in the bounce form and then you hit the wall, you will get the super bounce momentum boost. What's going on here is that, as I say, if you're in this bouncing form and then you hit the wall, the game converts your current horizontal speed into vertical speed. So however fast you were going forward while bouncing, you suddenly go that fast upwards. So if I instead bounce before I hit the wall, then this is when I get the huge upwards boost momentum. So you can get any old super bounce just by, bouncing far before you hit a wall like that. You can even just make your jump and bounce inputs very pronounced beside each other. But the most efficient super bounces are gained when you start close to the wall and when you bounce very close to the wall, both in quick succession. You can see just how much height I get here. There's a few scenarios I want to test here to show the differences in the outcome that you'll get, and the sort of benchmark that I'm looking at is if you look at where Sonic is on the screen right now, height wise he's about even with or just above the snake figures on the side of the screen. We can use that as a pretty objective benchmark, and as far as where to start the super bounce from, we can use this hourglass as a pretty objective starting point. So we've got a couple of control factors to show exactly what's going on. So I'm going to try to just get what I would call a really good super bounce. So again, I'm getting just above where the snake heads are, and this is because I bounced right before I hit the wall. If I release my spin dash and then jump and bounce immediately, so that there's a wide time between me bouncing and then hitting the wall, I'm probably going to get less height out of this. Yeah, you can see that I still got the super bounce, but Sonic noticeably didn't go as high. I'm going to try now to release my spin dash and jump as soon as possible, and then bounce just before I hit the wall. This is going to be tricky for me to work out how this is supposed to go, so bear with me a little bit here. Yeah, so I still got it, and again, I'm getting the super bounce, but I'm not getting as much height. So what is really going on here? Well, I mentioned that super bouncing is pretty much a straight formula of speed when going forward equals it turns into just the speed going upwards. So the reason I'm getting less height on these bounces, the reason I'm getting more height when I don't do it too late, I get more height when I do a bounce like this, as opposed to when I do a bounce like this, back, as opposed to when I do a bounce like that. It is because when you jump in this game, the game does apply air resistance, so the more time you spend in the air, the slower you actually go. So in other words, I'm starting from here, and if I roll along the ground and then super bounce, I have more speed at this point compared to if I jump and then bounce at the same point. The act of jumping between these 2 points actually does decrease Sonic's speed. So again, just bounce just before I hit the wall and it looks pretty high. And if I jump and then bounce, I don't get nearly as much speed because I'm slowing down simply because of that. So if you want to get the best super bounces, you do need to try and bounce ideally just before you hit the wall, but it is not required. The only absolute rule is that you need to bounce at any point before you hit the wall. The quality of the bounce will be slightly affected, as we've seen here. Again, I'll just do a bad one, just bouncing early. I'm still getting enough height to get out of here, but compared to if I just do it just before I hit the wall, I don't get as much height. There aren't too many tricks which are going to be affected by this to the degree that it will influence whether the trick succeeds or fails though. So as a beginner, what you should really be focusing on is making sure that you just get a bounce off before you hit the wall. If that means you need to do it super early like this, then as you're seeing, it's still enough to make a success out of it. You can like be surprisingly far away and still get some height, and be surprisingly far away and still get enough height to get out of pits. Like, it's not as tight and unforgiving as one might think. So hopefully this clears up some concepts for people, and yeah, get super bouncing.